Hello, everyone, and just a quick one before we all start. I just want to apologise. There's a little bit of technical difficulties in this one. A couple of people dropped in and out, so there'll be a bit of audio cutouts. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. But me, Femi, and Dawan, we're all working on this to try and get this as smooth as possible moving forward. So, with that done, on to the main podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Frame Podcast. I'm joined, as usual, by my two colleagues. Two colleagues? Oh man, I'm not at work. Duan and Femi, how are you guys doing?
All good.
I'm good. I'm good.
I don't know why I started off with colleagues. It's like I'm hosting some kind of work event or something. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I think we'll just jump straight into it. I think last time we were talking about, I can't remember the name, Jeffrey Chauncey. I can't remember the name of your school.
Jeffrey Chaucer.
Jeffrey also, yeah, that's.
Yeah, so I think it would be a good if you do you guys were talking about, well, whatever you guys feel free to talk about. I can't remember exactly what you were saying, but you said I think we all went through an interesting secondary school experience. So if you guys are just kicking off some of the stories that you've got.
Where should we start? I mean,
go first.
well, I mean, I only was there from between the years of 2003 and 2000, what was it, 2008, and those 5 years was probably, an experience of, for a young lad to understand how it feels like to be, an adult very soon. I mean, we had people there at 13 to 15, getting pregnant, drinking alcohol, having school fights, even unfortunately people having been murdered. We had funerals there, so it was a tough experience over there. Trying to get your GCSEs while all this environment's heating up. You got these sort of students you have to deal with, from areas of London, which have, as they use the word, beef with one another. I mean, it was quite a funny time, to be honest.
So yeah, just to come back to that.
It was.
Yeah, sorry, but I know you two didn't know so you both met at uni, from what I understand, but you were at the same school at the same time, but in 2 different years, but you both didn't know each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Femi was, I think, what year did you start in Jeffrey Chaucer?
If I can remember, I think it was, I think maybe year 8. I think I was in year 8, either year 7 or year 8. I'm not too sure, but one of those two. And even for myself, it was the time I was there. It was really crazy. I've never been to a secondary school that's that crazy. It's like, as John was saying, there was just like fights. People back then. I think I was maybe, is it 13 or 14, and you just hear like teenage pregnancies, teachers having affairs, everything you can imagine happens in that school. It's crazy.
Like mini, TV series sort of situation at a school. I don't know if you guys played a video game called Bully Canamedit. That's pretty much what the school was like. You had people throwing stink bombs at each other at times. Dinner ladies throwing food at teachers, and teachers having fights with dinner ladies having fights with students. I don't know, man. There was everything there that you could think that it was hopefully not possible, that was possible.
Jeez, man, that sounds rough. So that was a secondary school, was it?
It was.
Oh yeah, it was a secondary school. It was probably the most craziest you could ever experience.
I know. I wouldn't wish anyone to go there. It was, I don't know, maybe it would have improved now, but back then it was, oh man, it was terrible. You would have like, I know what I remembered was that back then you'd have students who clearly looked like they're in their 20s, claiming that they're like freaking 13 and 14-year-olds. Like, I remember in my class, in some of my class, I had like, there's some dudes there that literally, that if you ask them, if you speak to them, you would actually think they're, I don't know, 20. And then they were like massive and everything. And you would speak to them and be like, wait, how the hell are you guys like 14 and 15-year-old when you clearly look, man, like, what are you doing here? And it's just
Thing is,
crazy. It's just crazy.
Jeez, man, that's intense.
That's how it's mad. Like even I
I mean,
remember
that's
when
true. Actually,
I'm sure.
there were times like that. Actually, people who came in from other countries and
Mhm.
changed their age because it was possible back
Yeah.
then, obviously. But I'm not sure how it is possible now because obviously the government looks a bit more thoroughly into people's claims and stuff, of age. But it was like that. Exactly like that. You had people there, who studied maths apparently 12 years ago. I was like, well, isn't that meaning that you should be at nursery if it's 12 years ago? Why are you studying that now? I mean, it was quite weird. You had some really weird situations over there. It was quite funny.
Do you guys have any
I know.
standout memories in particular, or like any standout stories?
Oh well, I know I had one, and that my one was it was, I think there was a time when me and my during lunchtime, there was a time where we have like lunch, and me and my friends were like, and it was one friend in particular, were like, okay, I think we had maths, we had a maths lesson, and then after that we had lunch. So I think I forgot some of my stuff in like maybe I forgot maybe my bookcase or something in in the classroom. So I was like, I said to my friend to go back and get my bookcase. We were going there, and I think I was 13 at that time. So what happened is went to the class. We were on our way to the classroom, started hearing like weird noises from the classroom, and I think that was the day, that was the time I actually sort of understood what, I don't know, not understood what sex was, but obviously what we found out is that we found out that one of the teacher, the math teacher, was having sex with the maybe the head of maths or something. I don't know who, but definitely they were literally in the car. Like, yo, imagine a 13-year-old witnessing that. I was just like, what the hell is going on in this place? I think they sort of knew that someone was outside because when me and my friend realized that, we immediately like started to, to go down the stairs to leave the class. I just leave the door because we didn't even answer it. We just kind of saw a glimpse of what was happening. Just quickly left, and then the female teacher came out of the like immediately came out of the room, started doing up a shirt and everything. I was like, yo. Well, like, this school is crazy. Nothing is off limits. Like,
That
nothing
sounds
is off limits. Yeah, what was that doing?
No, I was just saying that basically sums it all up. That's
Yeah.
these are the weird things that you would experience in the school. It was crazy. That's why they had to obviously now change to a whole new system and new name. The names changed of the school, and they tried to delete the history of how bad and
Oh,
the reputation
really?
was.
They tried to delete the.
Yeah, they've changed it. Yeah, if you look for
Wow.
that name of the school, you'll find a completely new name. And the
Wow.
school now runs from nursery, I believe, now to sixth form. And because there was a secondary school there, just next to it. A primary school there, right next to it, and they've now combined the two.
So when you guys were at
Oh.
so when you guys were at school, like, was it just a secondary school? Was it including college, or like how many students in total were there, like at the school?
I'm not sure exactly how many
Mm.
total students, but it ran from year 7 to 11. So it was just like a normal secondary school. But now what they've done, well, just it was at the final year I left there, 2012. They changed the name, the systems changed. They sort of renovated the school. Now it runs from nursery, I believe, until sixth form.
Jeez, that's massive.
Yo.
Yeah, so you
That's
could have
massive. Is it like
children
a
for the whole of their.
private school?
No,
Is
no,
that a
no.
private school
It's
then, or
just
like boarding school?
it is a government school, yeah.
Oh, right. Because it's so crazy. Because I've like with my school in Leicester, we had the same thing. Like it was so funny because basically I went to an all boys school, and then next to it there's an all girls school, and the girls school is always like high level. Girls are a bit more mature. They're away from boys, who's actually better because they get stuff done and stuff. And so my school it's actually no longer a boys' school; it's a mixed school. So I feel so sorry for the first group of girls that are going there. That'd be awful. And they've changed. They've changed the logo and they've changed stuff about it. It's still the same kind of school, but man, some of the memories I had from there. I don't know if I've told you guys the story there where I was put into special needs. You guys there?
Oh, I don't know if it's the one there.
Yeah.
Okay, because nobody responded. I don't know if you guys heard me.
Yeah, you were saying something about special needs, and I said, no, I haven't heard that.
Yeah. So that happened to me in the first year, right? So basically, I joined the school, but I had a couple of weeks off. I had a week on holiday, right? Because it was just like I had holiday with my family. I came back, and that's when you're supposed to. Basically, remember they're stressing about your year 6 sats. You need to do year 6 sats. It's so important for you, and it's gonna sum up the next education level at secondary school and blah blah blah. So my school decided, now we're not going to do that. We're just going to make you do the test at year 7 anyway. So I travelled literally about an hour away from where I was to across right the other side of Leicester to go to school. Then I missed these tests. And instead of them putting down, Neil didn't do these tests, they put Neil got 0. So what that meant is that I was put into special needs. So I'm sitting in like the top of these classes with like set ones and everything. And then a woman knocks on the door and she goes, we're in here. Like what is going on? I'm in here. What's going on? He goes, no, you're not in this class. You're with me and my class. So I walk in, and again, like you were saying, there's like people that are like Afghani refugees and stuff that can't speak English. Some Chinese guy that can't speak English as well. And then I'm just like, what am I doing here, miss? Like because I had to sit at a computer and do some like farmland animal stuff where I was doing like, seriously, where I sat on it, goes, oh, we got to do this lesson. And so I clicked on the lesson. I'm like, all right. Clicked on it, first chapter. And do you know how to spell the? And I'm like, are you taking the piss? What the hell's happening? I swear to God, I did about 5 lessons in a day, in an hour, where it's supposed to be like a lesson a week. And the woman just goes, you're not supposed to be in here. And I'm like, I know, miss. I've been telling you from the beginning. So as she goes, oh, well, you're here now for the next year, so we just got to put you in. So I just went to these classes, and it was, I had to do literally this farmyard. I can't remember what it was, but it was like some software. It was like farmyard animals or something. And the hardest work, I completed like a year's course within 3 months. And that was me just taking the piss, like going on PowerPoint, creating presentations for other classes so I could catch up. It was quite sick. But yeah, so at the end of the year, so I complete the year, and then I was like, miss, I've done. And she goes, what do you mean you've done? I was like, well, I've done all the lessons that you wanted me to do. She went, oh, okay, well, I guess you got to sit here now. So for literally from January to the end of July, I just sat there not doing anything. It wasn't put back into the original class because that wasn't allowed. You know how UK rules are. It's like, no, the rules are the rules. And I'm like, I wasn't supposed to be here in the first place. So when it comes to the end of the year, it's the only time they have the end of year certificates, right? This is the only time I ever got a end of year certificate. So all these guys go up. There's literally guys with mental disabilities, guys that can't speak English, can't speak English as first language, and then they go, and then they say, and the next person I remember them saying it's not always about people that try the hardest or achieve the most. It's the people that try the hardest, and they went to Neil, and all these boys just turn and look at me like, what? Why has he got it? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. So I'm standing there, literally 2 guys in wheelchairs, these guys with a hearing aid got hearing problems, and it's a guy, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And I look completely the odd one out, and I'm just like, I just thought people didn't know. I got back to my seat with like, well done for passing, basically ESL, English as second language level 1. And that was my first year, and there was, yeah, man, it had a load of other things, but that was so stupid looking back at it. But I don't know why to this day they didn't say, oh well, we made a mistake, we're gonna take you out and put you in the appropriate set or whatever. Bearing in mind I've got a level 5 in English at that time. I've got like the highest level from my year 6 sats. So again, my school is full of, I've got other stories as well that we'll hopefully get into in a bit, but I don't know if you guys have ever heard that story about me.
Nah, never.
Yeah, there's quite
that, Dawan?
I was gonna say, Dawan, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Sometimes it just, honestly, man, I don't know if you keep hitting your phone or something, but it keeps going on like pause or something like that.
No, I don't know. It's a bit weird, this actually.
Yeah, but anyway, yes. Go for it, Femi.
We talked if he was using his laptop or his phone.
Who's that?
So for you, because obviously because you keep dropping out and dropping back in, so I was thinking maybe you're.
I'm using my phone. Phone.
Okay. Nah, it's cool.
We'll just.
What were you saying? What were you saying?
Who?
Yeah, let's go. Neil. You, Neil.
Yeah, man, that was literally, as I know, that was a group of events. Literally, like that was a group of things to come. Unfortunately, in the next few years, that was how. I don't know what it was like, but I was like, man, that when you get taken out of like primary school, so for like 3 to 6, and then you go into secondary school, it's like the first time you're like, okay, like you guys were saying, I'm like an adult now, and we're doing things, and it's not like. It's like you've gone from like the child's play area, where even I remember at secondary, like primary school, the food was nice, the people were people were looking after each other. There was a sense of community. When into secondary school, it was like you're on your own. You've got to try and start everything again.
Exactly. Yeah. Because it's true though. I mean, I remember back then when I went in for like school dinners, they used to have some decent food there. Fridays would always be the fish and chips day. I don't know if that was the same with you guys as well. And then you have the decent sponge cake or apple crumble as desserts.
I know, even for me too. I remember because for me, I went to primary school in Scotland, and I'm not even joking. Their food were very, very nice actually. Because for our one, when I was in primary school, every Friday, because they had excess of food and they don't want to get that, they don't want to serve that on Monday. So on Friday, what me and my friends usually do is that, and even the dinner ladies, they were so nice, so we would stay behind after everyone is finished eating. Even we finish eating, we're just gonna stay behind, and they're gonna come over to us and gonna be like, extra burgers, have about 20 hot, literally on a tray, and they're gonna bring that over to us, like eat as much as you want every Friday. No joke, and that usually happens every Friday, and we're just there, just like eating, and they're gonna give us like and, and all those stuff, and it was pretty cool. It's like in primary school, you get treated nicely and everything, but the moment you get obviously secondary school, that's when they start.
Life just changes.
Exactly. You become the youngest out of the entire school, so you have like freaking. I remember when I just started when I just entered secondary school, you have like the oldest looking down on you and treating you like a freaking idiot, and it's not even funny. Like you have them treating you like an idiot until obviously you get to year 11 or whatever, and you become the old, obviously not continuing the cycle, but just
It is, man. It's like
just don't want them like.
it's like I always compare it to, like, it's not as bad, but it's like the old timers at prison. You got like the new people that come in and they're like, oh, well, what are you here for? And then you're like, oh, and then you're trying to figure out where you fit in the totem pole, and that kind of life is so different. And that stick with me for a while, going through to, you get to year 11 and you realize, oh man, this is just fucked. What's going on?
No. Yeah. Yeah, so have you got anything?
I was gonna say to Femi, because you went to school in Scotland. How did that? So coming over to London, obviously that's a massive a good geographical shift. B, you're changing country. So what do you feel? What did you find was the biggest differences between your time in Scotland and your time in London?
Obviously in Scotland, the most that I found, the people in Scotland. What I noticed is that the people in Scotland are a lot more nicer. They're a lot more friendly. People just tend to look out for each other a lot more in Scotland. But obviously, the downside with that is the accents. You can't understand what they're saying. Like, I spent most of my time in Scotland just saying yes and nodding my head, because if they're talking to you, you're like, I'm not sure what I can't understand what you mean, but I'm just gonna say yes anyway, because I'm just gonna I'm just gonna say yes.
Very strong.
I don't know what you're saying. Yeah. And for me, I was a bit lucky because I had one of my primary school teacher was, I remember her name. She was English, so she would always come to me and be talking to me like, I know how you feel. Obviously, if people are speaking in the Glaswegian accent, you can't really understand them. So most of the time, you just have to nod and say yes. But obviously, Scotland, place is very nice. You know, I was with Edinburgh. Edinburgh is beautiful. It's a beautiful place, like the architects. And yeah, but it's that. What I feel that isn't that you have to always be on the go and always just keep the Chelsea started the world, and I was like, whoa, this is a drastic change from the comfy life of being in London and Scotland and everything was, and then going straight to London, wherever it's extremely fast paced, and everyone are just crazy. But obviously you get used to it, because I spent some time living in London. I got used to it. Even my accent changed. I started saying like in it. Obviously the time when in it was the thing to say in London, I started saying in it a lot, and it's just crazy. And then obviously from London moved to Coventry, and it's what I can just say is that every part, every part in the UK have their way of living, basically, and have the way they treat people. And out of everything, I do feel like in Scotland, Scottish people, at least from my experience, are the nicest, I would say. Their accent's a bit difficult to understand, but in terms of like the way they treat even foreigners, treat like people of different countries, it's pretty good. They're not as bad as other places in the UK. But yeah, overall, I did enjoy my time in Scotland, I would say. Yeah.
Would you ever consider moving back, Femi, to Scotland?
I wouldn't. I don't mind really.
Language barrier.
It's just that's the problem. It's just the accent. That's the only thing that would be would be the problem. Apart from that, if I've freaking my uncle who lives in Scotland has been like, oh, if you want to get married, come over to Scotland because the women here are so much nicer, so much this. And I'm like, and that's what he tells me anyway. So I wouldn't necessarily mind. It's just the problem of obviously if you want to have kids, if you have kids, they would have the Glaswegian accent or the Scottish accent, and it's sort of like a barrier if they want to move around. Like if you're Scottish now and you come over to England, it's a bit difficult to have people understand you. So it's I don't mind moving back, but it's just the accent. That's the main problem. Apart from that, everything else in Scotland does beat like everything in London. I'm not lying. Like, it does beat everything in London. It's just obviously the accent that makes things a bit difficult. And yeah, that's my 2 cents anyway.
How was Costa over there at the time? Was it all right? I mean, when you go out, was there a lot of activities to do? Was it just, how was that?
Yeah, that was it's if you go down to it depends on it's the same as London. It depends on where you go. Like obviously, if you go down to Edinburgh, that's the more busy type place. It's more Edinburgh. You would say Edinburgh is like the zone 1 of where you've got like this. It's basically like the central London of London, basically, where you've got the more expensive stuff there. So you want to obviously enjoy your time, Edinburgh. You want a more peaceful, quiet, slow-paced environment. Go down to Glasgow, and yeah, that's sort of. But those are the only 2 places I've actually been. And when I was living in Scotland. So it depends though. It's a mix. It's basically the same as London, but just different vibe. People there give off like a different vibe, and that's sort of the main difference. And also to mention, I think in Scotland, university going to uni is free. You don't have to pay. You don't have to pay tuition fee that we do over in England. I think university in Scotland is free, which is good, which is also a plus as well. So yeah, just advertising advertising Scotland for Scottish people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we could be sponsored by Scotland, that would be a sick for the podcast, isn't it?
I
Get
know.
you as the
Right?
ambassador, Femi.
Like if you're gonna go to uni, you go to uni in Scotland. Oh, God.
So both of you came
Yeah.
from London, basically London to Coventry, I think about the same time as well. So what did you find was the biggest, obviously one of the biggest differences coming at that time?
Yeah, Dawan, you go for this one because I know. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the first time it was just moving out of London, living in a different town outside of London for the first time. In Coventry, trying to get understand about the city, the town, and also a feel of where to live. What sort of accommodation price was bloody expensive at the time.
Mm.
They take the liberty out of all the local students, and then try to raise the expense and make it the same price for regardless if you're international or a student from London or from England, because at the end the universities are trying to charge up. They
Mm.
already got the 9 grand tuition fees, and then they try to even expense the accommodation. So it was all, it was a bit difficult at the time, and trying to save money, as well as the traveling cost was expensive. So it was, a lot of finance was a problem. But then I managed to survive using the tuition fees and the loans. And then trying to understand more about Coventry, and the most difficult was the finance, but also the accents, the Brummy accent as well was quite difficult. It wasn't difficult to understand; it was difficult to hold myself not laughing, because we had people with sort of Asian accents and Brummy accent being mixed together and trying to it just sounded so weird and like the most dumbest movie ever. Trying to listen to a conversation was quite funny for me. And the first week was holding myself to get used to it, because we had some funny students there who had a very funny accent. that I've never heard before, and I was like, bloody hell, this is going to be, the most funniest experience for me.
And also we bumped into some really dumb people as well, like as a part of, I think, your course to one and other people, which again, it was great fun looking back at it because they just used to crack us up all the time. But not
Every
because,
time.
these guys were like comedy geniuses. They were just dumb. But to be fair, you do need those people in life just to keep you entertained at times.
Yeah,
How they were doing
exactly.
engineering degrees, I do not know. You wouldn't trust them making a sandwich. Seriously. I don't think half of them even completed the degree. There's quite a few dropouts.
It was, yeah.
Right.
Especially the first year, unfortunately, to the second year, there was a huge difference in numbers of students in that same course.
Yeah.
And that was the easy year.
I know. No, it's crazy, right? Oh my days.
Yeah, just bringing it back to Jeffrey
I
Chaucer.
remember.
So go for it, Kavemi.
Go on. Oh no, go. You go now. What were you saying about Jeffrey Chaucer?
Now, I was just going to ask your, your opinions and stuff on how things are, not opinions, your memories and stuff of how things were going, since your time there, because it sounds like we went through like a similar experience being in secondary school, because it was a big eye opener for all of us. But like, was there any other stories that you guys had? Because I know I've got quite a few. The one, have you got any?
Yeah. Many crazy
stories,
though.
but, it involves a lot of personal information that would, the people, if they hear it, they'd probably be very disappointed. And these guys are quite messed up people in London. If they're still alive, I might not be the next day.
Fair enough. Well, exactly. I wasn't trying to get anybody in trouble.
I know what you mean.
They are just
what you mean.
crazy people. Yeah. Like we
definitely.
Yeah, man. With people, we had like stuff where.
I mean, we already touched on the activities that we experienced being in those schools, and it was obviously quite crazy in itself, but it was a good thing because it sort of opened my eyes out and understood the way of life and what these guys are going through, and then what I might be going through at older age. But it's just a bit strange seeing it people at the age of 13 or 14 doing things that didn't make sense, because what they were doing was trying to act sort of like a gangster rather than as a student. It was a bit strange in that sort of perspective, because obviously at the time we had the what do you call it, the R&B music and things just going up at the time, and then we had Eminem, 50 Cent at their prime, and then all of a sudden these guys were sort of overshadowed with that entertainment celebrity being brought up into their life, and it was quite funny at the time.
I know, because obviously those music then were obviously promoters type of like vision, and obviously because mainly I know in Jeffrey Chaucer it was like predominantly black school. Like a lot of people, people from Africa, black people were there. And I think obviously, even for myself, I'm surprised that the only reason why I didn't follow that type of culture is because of my upbringing. That's the only reason. If it wasn't because of that, even I would have fallen for the exact same trap as most.
Yeah, I mean, exactly it. Because from people from that school that I was at, I don't think in its history, I don't even know if in its history, I'll be very surprised if it's more than 20 people actually went to university after studying in that school.
I know.
Damn, those are low numbers, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's how it was. But again, they said that, if you're studying in your class, then this is how it was over there, and this is the sort of ideology they had with these kids. And when these kids came to school, if they saw anyone getting really high grades, oh, what are you doing? You're unique, man. You're unique. You need to allow it, man. Why are you
Exactly.
being so smart?
Are
You
you
shouldn't
getting so exactly? You shouldn't be that smart. You're stupid, man. Like us.
Yeah. Have you ever heard Chris Rock stand up? Where he goes, he just talks. He goes, "There's something cool about not knowing anything." Because somebody going, "I don't know," and that's kind of considered quite cool back then.
Yeah.
Like the less somebody
know.
knows, like, "Oh, I don't know that, miss," and that's considered, "Yeah, but you're well cool." And looking back at it, you're like,
Yeah,
"No, that's not cool.
that's
What
not
do you
how
mean?
it is.
What do you mean? What do you mean you don't know? It's 2 add 4. It ain't that hard. You should know this stuff." Oh yeah, I don't know,
We
man.
have
Nah, it's
people.
all good.
It's quite sad actually. Because I was when I was helping, because at the time there was these sort of activities that people had to do at the school, just to sort of boost up points when I was at college, and I was trying to help out people with reading difficulties. And these guys were like 14, 15, white dudes, who were brought up in England, whose first language and only language is English, but they couldn't read. They couldn't read, they didn't know how to read a book. I had to get them these guys are like teenagers. They're trying to face their education, but because of the education system being so easy in terms of you didn't have to pass the first few years of your life. You'll go to the next year. Once you get to year 6, you had these stats. Even if you didn't pass your stats, you'll still get to secondary school, but not in not the best one that you would hope for. And then you had to, obviously, once you get to secondary school, that's when life got serious, and you had to start reading and go back and catch up with all the things that you missed out on in primary school. But these kids, they didn't know how to read. I mean, okay, they didn't know how to +1, but that's not too. I wasn't ashamed of. I would say those people shouldn't be ashamed of that. They should be ashamed of themselves having their main language being English, but they couldn't read. I was like, what is going on here? I mean, there was no difficulties. There was no learning disability. It was just they had difficulty because they couldn't concentrate in class because all these other students just, they taking a mick out, or they got bullied. It was, those different lifestyles that they had that, stopped them from learning. It was quite strange and sad at the time when I was trying to help these kids out. And luckily, some of them obviously progressed and helped them out, but you can only do a limit. You can just give them guidance that they need. And a lot of people do need guidance and help, to be honest.
Yeah, man, especially at that age where you need people to kind of, especially if you're growing up in a household where you've not got a lot of parental figures. This is what I think as well. Like, it's so important at that age for people to have, like, they don't just look down at their teachers. They need to look at their teachers like, okay, I can trust this person with this information, and look, they can help me go places. Where I just feel a lot of the places that I went to, and it's not their own fault, because that's kind of how the school is, just like, get these kids through and then whatever. It's like factory workers, isn't it? You just get them through and pass it on to the next stage and see what happens from there. And you're not really treated by who you are as an individual. It's just get you through the system. It's just kind of like package you on and ship you on to the next level. And it's not my problem anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And it's quite strange because, you listen to these teachers and they're teaching you, okay, fine, but they're teaching you their way of understanding something rather than your way, because every human has their own way to understand or how to learn. Like, if you explain to me something about, I don't know, anything, any topic that I've never come across before, and you're just explaining to me, for me it's just going blah 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 until I go in, experience it, and understand what you're actually talking about face to face with the topic. Then I'll understand and learn, not just by explained to by this whole essay being talked about and explained in a classroom with all these students learning. Everybody has their own way of understanding the concept or the subject, and it's quite sad that the only way I would say that students would be able to learn and develop those skills would be sitting with those other students who actually understand it, to explain to them, this is how I understand, and then face to face with that subject. And then, like, for example, learning, I don't know, algebra or BODMAS or whatever, writing it down and understand, okay, this is where I need to use it. This is where it's important. Because there's a lot of things that we learn in our daily school life that's never used, actually.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And there's some of the things you touched on as well. There's like, it's not what you learn sometimes, because at the end of the day, now, because the thing is, the school system is old. It's not what you know anymore, because at the end of the day, everybody has got a phone. They can look up and memorize and find that information. It's how you learn. They don't teach you how to learn stuff. If you want to get better at a skill, how do you do it? They don't teach you that. So they just teach you this, 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 this. But I'm like, at the end of the day, or they go non-calculator exams. I mean, they're like, oh, well, what happens if you haven't got a calculator on us? Then 10 years later, or even in the same school, we all had phones on us. Now, even if you're at work, you just go on your phone or you go on your laptop, which most of us are working from laptops, hit the calculator button, type the calculator, and you got it free. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter doing these sums. But there's life skills and stuff that I know, Dawan, you got in stuff like a mortgage and tax and stuff, and we've all got to pay tax and stuff like that. And what it means, we were never taught this stuff in school. Oh, and I think I actually have one thing as well that was super useful. So when I was in year 11, we had this, I won't say the teacher's name, but it probably one of the best teachers I ever had, right? Guy had multiple sclerosis. Like, he's been through a lot of stuff, but he was respected. The guy, especially around boys, where if you're not big or you're not strong or you're not a PE teacher or everything, this guy just had respect. And so we did our exams, we did things, and we're way ahead of the curve because he understood how to teach people. And he used to teach it like on the last few lessons. He was last couple of lessons, he just kind of sat down and go, all right, you guys have done sick. What do you guys want to talk about? And normally these guys would poke fun. They'd be like, people would be misbehaving. Like, I've had people were throwing chairs and like apples and lunchbox, or people would nick each other's phones and like just do stupid stuff. In that class, everybody was attentive. And like they would ask him like, well, what do you think? Like, I'm growing up in this environment. Now, people were nervous to be like vulnerable and actually ask real questions. He'd be like, no, ask away. And some guy goes, well, how important is money? And he goes, money's important, man. He goes, don't get me wrong, but money ain't everything. I remember he was the first guy to ever tell me, especially coming from an Asian household, that money isn't, and he was an Asian dude himself. And he went, money ain't everything, man. He goes, money, again, I've been broke. He goes, me and my wife have been struggling, and we've argued about bills and stuff because we both didn't make enough money to pay the mortgage and the bills. And he goes, that's stressful. Over a certain point, money is just, he goes, it's not what money you make. And that's the problem, is the society looks at you as how important you are is how much money you make. And we're learning from this time, to bring it back to coronavirus, that these people that actually work, these essential workers, are actually paid the least. You're looking at nurses, you're looking at people that work in at supermarkets, delivery drivers and stuff like that. These aren't people that are paid the most, even though we're seeing from this time that they are the most important roles. These are the essential roles that keep the society ticking over. They look at you as if the millionaires and billionaires that are hoarding money offshore and all this kind of stuff, they're more important. And yes, they are important, but at the end of the day, when you get sick and this, that, and the other, who's going to take care of you? And this emphasis was not stressed. He goes, that's what's important. He goes, do something that you'll enjoy, but at the end of the day, I don't know, even they make you choose what GCSEs you want to do. And what 14-year-old knows what they want to do? I don't know a single 14-year-old. I was like that. I was like, I don't know. I told my parents, like, you should be an optician. I went, all right, then I'm going to be an optician. Because because I didn't know. I didn't know what I was going to do when I was younger. I didn't know because I didn't know what the fuck do you know when you're 14 and you chose to pick A levels pick GCSEs to do an A level, to do a degree that you can do for the rest of your life. And you're like, I don't know shit, man. I know, what do I like? I like girls, but you can't do a degree in that. And that's the age. Do you know what I mean? What do you know? So this is the thing where I'm like, man, I'm trying to think of a way to get into this, because that's what something I want to give back to kids or something like that. If I could help another way, and not necessarily be a teacher, because I don't think, as for reasons why you said, it's the easy part is just going, go to the board, do some stuff, and then just here you go. That's the easy way of doing it. But I'm like, can we affect people over the long term How do we do that?
Mm.
And that's what
Yeah.
I was thinking I potentially could go into schools or something like that. And the problem is teaching sounds sick in concept, but for one, I don't think I won't say it's rewarding, but you're just doing what other people tell you. And it's just
That's
this
all.
Yeah.
perpetual cycle.
System that's
And
you
that's
just follow.
exactly, and it's dumb.
Yeah.
I think it's dumb
Yeah.
because
That's
going back to
the
it, it's
system.
not the information that you care about.
Yeah.
Because the information you can find out on the internet now. We've all got,
And
I don't know
the
how many.
system seems quite rubbish at the moment, because even you study all that, you're just going to the next level, the final level being university. Once you are in university, you do your course that you pay your X amount to. Then at the end, it's not enough, because you need to do certifications, or you need to do some job
Exactly.
experience. And it's like this whole cycle of this education system has gone, become worthless than worthwhile, because at the end, the people who tend to be very successful in life in terms of finance, in terms of money, or in terms of their sort of opportunities, are those who are doing stuff like apprentice, or doing some BTech that involves them to do some work experience behind it, and then doing some sort of business finance degree which relates to them becoming a entrepreneur, or it's quite difficult
Yeah.
this time, getting into this sort of area of thinking, a degree is enough for me to get a decent job and a decent house and a decent life. No, it's not.
I get that. I heard there was one in one of the places I've worked before. There was one person who said this to me. He gave this type of saying. He said the A students work in the. How can I say? No, the A students work for the. No, the A students work for the B students, and then the B students work in the business that the C students own, and the C students puts all of the employers inside the building the D students built. You get what I've just said there?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
the A star students, the A stars, the A star and the A stars and the A students and whatnot work for the C students. Obviously, the C students will be the one that will create the business, and then the C students puts all of the employers that works for him or her in the building that the D students built. So it's
Yeah.
like
It's
what's saying is that, yeah, go on then. What do you
yeah.
want to say?
No, I definitely get what you want to say, but the emphasis isn't on memory retention. That's I
Yeah.
think is stupid, because if we want to if you want to retain memory, it's easier to save it on a computer now. It's easier to write it down on a laptop or a computer, and then go, this is our phone. We just write it on here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think they're teaching it all wrong, and they're not teaching, I think, kids how to find. I don't know if any of us were taught, okay, what are we good at? How can you make this a
Mhm.
career? Or what's your best skills? For us it was like, just get your C. For me it was
Yeah.
like, get your C and get out. Like
Yeah, I
just
think
because.
what it is that I think that's what they call banking education, because most people, the entire education system, that's what it's called, like banking education, where we're all being taught to just simply memorize everything. When it comes to exam day, you pour it out. We're not being taught as in what's the skill you're good at, like what you were saying though, like
Or even
when
how to
imagine if a
find it.
teacher was say, yeah, like what's your skill? What are you good at?
Yeah,
Let's try and bring out the skill and let's try and implement it into society. They're not doing that, and that's why we are in the way we are now. Why
and
everything
that's
seems,
right. Yeah. And
yeah, go
what
on.
do you want to be? I mean, like, for example, okay, we have some successful people who do their roles very well. Then why don't they just give out, their knowledge to those who want to take over from their role? Because at the end of the day, you can learn as much maths, physics, whatever the hell, English at the end of the day, but you're not going to use that in your job role. unless you need to use it. So what they need to do is try and break down those job roles, and so, for example, if we want to get into IT, what do we really need? Do we need to learn all 12 programming languages? No, of course not. Do you need to know your own operating system? Yeah, of course. Do you need to know the hardware? Yes, of course. So these things that you do need to find out and know. They should start it off from a very young age and get to their mind into it and understand those subjects that's related to the workforce, because there's a lot of things that you're never going to use. Why, if you're a networking engineer, I expect you to know all the networking protocols, the OSI layer, things like that. But if you're a software programmer, you don't need to know the networking skills. That knowing those networking skills are just additional to the software programming developer role. So these little things that they need to sort of break down and sort of get those people at a young age to understand where they really need to go. Because at university we were taught electronics and stuff, and I'm not using electronics. Why do I need to know advanced digital or these crappy things that I'm not into? I don't want to become that. You just, I'm paying all this money for you to teach me stuff that I don't want to know. I don't want to know that. If I want to know that, I can go and read about it online. Teach me what I want to know to get to where I want to be.
And how to find it. Because that information also, I can't remember, we did loads of stuff on electronics. And I remember we did one module. I can't remember which module it was, right? But I remember all three of us did it, where we could do it manually or we could get the software to do it. Do you remember? I can't remember the software, what it was called. I remember a couple of people used it.
Right.
And where we learned all these calculations, they go, oh, well, the software can do it. And the thing is, in real life, all these softwares are available to do all the calculations, and we're taught how to do the calculations. But in real life, we don't need to. We just need to input it, get it out. Right, what do we do with it? Okay, cool. And I remember learning it thinking, oh, what's the freaking point of us doing it when the freaking software, which in real life is going to be used. Like, remember we did a whole module on, what's it called? Computer architecture, right?
Subnet masking.
I can't remember. These are just names of old things I can't even remember. But yeah, something like that, like a subnet where they create themselves, and you're like, this is how it does it. I don't care how it works. I care how it actually functions. And the problem is, it's just this cycle of, it's not because at the end of the day, when you go into a job, you realize that these skills we learned were useless, and they got to. I think what's important is that they go into them and they teach you about things like work politics, because that is itself is its own game. Because some people, you go into a business and you just think, we're just going to work. No, you've got to literally pick who you're going to be friends with, which clique you're going to be associated with, how we're going to balance everything. Because that in itself is its own game. At times when I was at some companies, I realized, you got to kind of click with a certain group to get what you want. And if you're not part of that group and you have a query that's going to affect you, and you're not part of that group, they'll put you to the back of the line, or they won't even answer it. And I'm just like, man, this is so stupid. But you've just got to, again, some of these experiences you've got to learn just by doing them. But this emphasis on just education is I think a bit dumb, because a lot of people don't need it. And also they think, what's it called? And I forgot how at school it was just like, go to university. But I'm like, looking back at it, I was like, well, technically an electrician knows more about electrical stuff than we do, practical electric stuff. And also when AI and stuff comes, I think the jobs like plumbers and electricians and stuff, they're going to be the ones that are least affected. So looking back at it, man, I mean, it's just a cycle that doesn't want to address what's happening, like in real life.
And that's true. That's definitely true. Dawan. Hey, Dawan. No, I thought you.
You there, man?
Yeah, I'm here.
Wow.
I'm listening to the conversation.
Oh, okay, yeah. But yeah, that's what I was thinking. But it's like it's just.
Yeah.
It's a long conversation. But hey, at the end of the day, he's just dropped out again, Dawan. He's back anyway. So again, these are the conversations we want to have, and at least even if we reach a couple of people doing this podcast, it could come, it could not, whatever. At least we're doing our bit, and this is our bit into the universe. At least we can put out, and we can, at the end of the day, we could show our grandchildren whatever that kind of well, we did something, and we're putting something good out there. If it comes good, cool. If it doesn't, all right, we give it a go. But I can't be doing the same thing. The 40-hour work week, I feel, is like a little bit gone, because that used to be like with the factories and stuff like that, and that's basically, or in the next few years, that will be coming to a halt. Like I was looking at, what was it called? Uber, they're looking at driverless cars. They've got a driverless car now. The technology is 98% perfect. It could drive itself. Now, when that comes down, you got to think about taxis, lorry drivers, public transport, any industry, and all private industries that want to save money. Doesn't make any sense to have a human behind the wheel. We get more efficient stuff. You can run it for longer. They've not got any pensions or anything to pay into. I mean, it's going to affect things massively, man. And I just don't see anybody addressing the situation. And again, robots are coming, man. Robots are coming, and not in what's it called? In a bad way, because they're going to make our lives easier. We're seeing with like the coronavirus what actually is the human role in this world.
Yeah.
That is very. That is
true. Where would we be? I mean, would key workers also be replaced by robots? That's a quite interesting area to look at.
Which ones do you think will be?
I don't know. I mean, it's quite interesting. I mean, I think the best thing to do is just replace the politics with computers. That's controlling it, the country by AI.
And then we have what? Skynet, like Terminator.
Dude, they're testing. Do you know recently with the coronavirus stuff? Do you know how they're transferring the vaccines? They're doing it by drones.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So literally, this is Skynet. I'm not even a post-apocalyptic way. Just in a, well, if you get rid of people, why not? If it's not gonna, this is a perfect example. If humans haven't got to transfer it, then it's safer to do it by drones. So why not?
Well, drones are being used quite a lot these days. I remember seeing like packages being delivered via drones as well. But it's just a bit strange, isn't it? I mean, something as important as vaccines, if they're they're trusting a computer to deliver it, more safely than a human, then I don't know what world we're going to be living in the future.
Yeah, but bro, like my granddad said the same thing. He didn't like, for example, things that our kids will take for granted. Like if you've seen a kid using like an iPhone or an Android, because it's like programmed to be as easy as possible. It's so quick. If we all got younger cousins and stuff, they pick it up, they know what they're doing with it. It's so easy. But compared to looking back at it, I was saying, like my granddad, for example, he would never trust an ATM. He goes, why would I trust ATM? I would go into the bank and withdraw the money every time he'd wait in the queue. Now, for us, we would never do that. We just go to an ATM, cool, we'll just check how much it charges, put it in the wall, boom, boom, take the card out, put the money back, and then go. And it's that kind of trust. Well, what happens if you take your card? Well, yeah, but that's just we look archaic. To us, he looks like, well, we can't trust that. Looking back, do you know what I mean? So it's just about the generations and how they change, and how technology is making us change.
That's definitely true, because soon, obviously, this cashless thing is going to come into play now, where people won't be using cash anymore, and it's all going to be transactions through either, I don't know if it's going to be through cards or something like that, but eventually, obviously, it's going to be in the future where our grandchildren will be like, oh, we're going to be like, oh man, how can you go without obviously using cash or without paying hard cash? How can you do it? How can you trust
how can you survive?
Everything? Yeah, survive with just everything being stumped and cashless and stuff like that. And it's gonna be quite weird, years from now, seeing how how that goes,
Sure.
basically. How, yeah,
People,
because what I feel is that imagine if we enter a cashless society, it would mean that, let's say, if you were to commit a crime or something, or you were to go against the authorities, then they can just simply block your access to your money and you cannot buy anything on
that's
without
very interesting.
if you
Because
uh,
in Sweden they have a cashless society. There's a lot of businesses there, small or big. They don't use cash. They do card only. And when they're trying to transfer money, they use some weird app where they just put a phone number in, and a few card details and the name details, and then bam, the cash gets sent. Cash gets delivered to someone. That's how they send cash over to one another. It's a bit of a strange society there, but they said that that's where the future is going to be going. It's going to be all online only.
yeah. Like for me now, I'm looking at that and I'm not fully trusting it, because if we look at it, hackers, if everything is cashless, then that makes hackers more powerful. Like imagine if someone can just simply hack into your account
Yeah.
and take out all of your money, and you don't even have options to be able to even draw out any cash, because everything is online and everything is stock online. It's quite a dangerous. So me,
Yeah.
looking at that now, I feel like I can't. I would rather trust be able to go onto an ATM, pull out some cash, and go into a shop and spend my money that way. So
But what
I feel
happens when
like
the
obviously
shops
years from now,
don't accept it? No, we don't accept cash
that's
anymore.
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I think
I see my as your granddad in a few years from now, when I'm gonna be old, and I'm gonna be saying to my grandchildren that, yo, how can you be how can you trust those cashless system when when you can just simply go to an ATM and get your money out that way. So obviously the point I'm just trying to make is, obviously things are always going to be changing, and obviously going to be changing to make things easier for everybody. But at the same time, it's going to be I don't know how to say it, but I feel like as things are getting a lot easier, we're going to be losing a bit more freedom and options to choose what we want to do. Because if we all go into a cashless society, we won't have the option to be like, okay, I actually want to take out cash now. You won't have that option anymore. It's going to be that it always has to, and you always have to your money transaction online. You do not have the option to physically hold your money anymore. So to me, it's just like as things get more futuristic and more easier, we're losing more and more of our options and freedom. So it's a two-way sword, really. But that's
this is
how I
one
see
way for
it.
the
And
one world government, right? One currency, so everybody's probably
you-
using the same currency for online, and then like Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden you have one language, which obviously English is already dominating quite around the world, and then one government for the whole world.
yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
And I think on that note,
It's
it's
coming.
time to wrap up, guys. What a way to end it. But yeah, if you guys have enjoyed, thank you so much for tuning in to the end. We'll catch you on the next one. We'll definitely be exploring some more topics and some more issues. If you guys want to talk about anything, let us know in the comments below, and we'll be able to get back to you and so forth and so forth. But guys, have you enjoyed it today?
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
It was quite a
It
good
was good talking
conversation.
about it also.
Talk
Cool,
about
man.
the
Yeah,
present and the
man.
future.
Go for it, Dawn.
Yes,
But yeah,
I think it's dropped out again.
we'll try and get this sorted as it goes on, because at times I think Femi, you're dropping out as well. But
Oh,
we'll push through, and I'll get this sorted for you guys. But yeah, hopefully everybody has a good stay safe and everything, and we'll see everybody in the next podcast. Goodbye.
yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thanks.
Stop
Right.
recording.